Truth, AFR Talk. Well, over the last few months, we've been going over what has been described as the Gang of Eights amnesty bill or comprehensive immigration reform legislation. And we keep learning more about it, the cost, and we are separating the facts from the fiction, the myths, if you will, from the statements made about how we need to do this now. And pretty much just go back to 2007, you heard the same thing. The reason we get the truth on these issues is we have places like the Center for Immigration Studies that provides data about what the impact of legal and illegal immigration is. And the executive director of that organization is Mark Krikorian, and he is with us now. Mark, welcome back. Great to be with you.
Glad to be here.
You had the line of the week, I think, in response to Eric Holder's comment that amnesty was a civil right. Here's our attorney general, and he's saying that amnesty, in essence, would be a civil right. I'd like you to explain why comprehensive immigration reform and a pathway to citizenship is not a civil right.
Well, I mean, this is, the assumption is, first of all, they're not members of the civil community. They're foreigners. And so the idea that somehow amnesty is, remember, he said a civil and human right, that it's a human rights violation not to give illegal aliens amnesty. Sorry, but that's absurd. The fact is, these are people who violated the law. You might even be able to make a practical argument that, at some point, amnestying them is a good idea. You could say, well, look, just prudence suggests this, and it'll be a lot less hassle, and whatever it is. I don't know. You can make an argument. But the idea that there is a right to, infiltrate somebody else's country, break their laws, and then demand that, you should get amnesty, you should be allowed to stay legally, is just, it's outrageous, frankly.
And not akin to the civil rights movement of the late 50s, early 60s, or 60s throughout, in the fact that they are looking for something under the law. They're looking for an exemption and not equality.
Right, exactly. They're looking for an exemption because the fact is that there's a whole variety of crimes that illegal immigrants under this Schumer-Rubio bill would get a pass for that you or I or your listeners would be prosecuted for. Tax fraud, identity theft, perjury, because if you're an illegal immigrant working on the books with a fake Social Security number, which most are, probably 5 million illegal immigrants are, you've committed perjury by submitting the paperwork that, says this is who I am and this is my real Social Security number. So really, I mean, it's almost as if illegal immigrants have a sort of special status, a kind of exemption from many of the laws, not even immigration laws, but other laws that everybody else has to comply with.
All right, now I'm going to play Obama All or Nothing, which is actually others have adopted it, including Rubio, which means, hey, if you don't do anything, you have de facto amnesty. What are you going to do, Mark? Deport them all?
Well, we don't need to deport them all. First of all, we shouldn't even be talking about amnesty until we have in place the tools that we need to make sure that the immigration laws can be enforced. Basic things like an electronic system, which already exists, but make it for everybody, an electronic online system that's free that employers can use to check when they hire somebody, and they do all the paperwork anyway. They're doing the paperwork now, but they can check whether the name, Social Security number, and date of birth are all real and they match. This is a pretty basic thing. There's no reason that has to wait for amnesty. That should just happen. Another thing is close to half the illegal population came in legally with a visa and then just ignored their promise to go home and just stayed. Well, we don't have a good way of tracking who leaves after their time is up, so we don't have a good way of knowing who is still here illegally. Again, this is something that we should have now. It shouldn't be part of some broader discussion. 17 years ago, Congress mandated the development of that kind of check-in, check-out system for foreign visitors, and it's still not done. Those things have to be finished, up and running, before we even have a conversation about what do we do about the people who got in before we fixed those things. Okay,
but Mark, the idea is that this legislation will bring that. It will bring enforcement, deportations, and the numbers that people have been talking about. They've increased the amount of deportations. I know you have taken this on recently, among other things. But tell me, how has our enforcement of our immigration laws been in the last? You can go 4, you can go 8 years. Are we deporting more?
The number of deportations has been climbing since the Clinton administration, because the administrations over time have gotten progressively more serious about it, and there's also a lot more illegal immigrants. And in fact, a lot of people deported are not illegal immigrants. They're legal immigrants who've committed crimes and basically turned themselves into illegal aliens by committing those crimes. So the numbers have been going up steadily. What happened is with this administration, that climb, that increase stopped. So they've continued basically at the level of the end of the Bush administration. And so they haven't pulled the plug on deportations. I mean, I got to give them that. The activist groups have been pushing for them to stop all deportations, and they haven't done that. But they haven't increased them either, and they haven't asked for more money to increase them. They've just basically kept them at the level that they were when Bush left office. But that is their one big selling point about how tough they are on enforcement. And even that number, they're cooking the books on, counting people as deportations that wouldn't have been counted in earlier years. Lots of, basically fancy paperwork to mask the fact that they're actually not doing enforcement all that well. And now Senator Rubio and John McCain and the rest of them are saying we should trust Barack Obama to faithfully enforce the immigration laws after the amnesty is complete. And that's just, it defies belief.
And especially in light of what he did in last year, that he didn't do in 2011. In fact, he remarked, "I can't do this. I can't make my own immigration policy." And then in 2012, he did, didn't he?
Right. This was there was a bill in Congress called the DREAM Act, which would have given amnesty to illegal immigrants who came here as kids and have grown up here. It's too expansive, in my opinion. It counts people who came as teenagers and what have you. But the basic idea of kids who came here very young and really don't know any other country, yeah, I mean, I think you can make a case for that. But Congress didn't. The specific forms of the DREAM Act failed. Congress voted them down twice. So what did the president do? He just said, "Well, I'm just going to do this anyway. Constitution, Smarstitution. I'm just doing this." And so he did. And he's so far amnestied something like 250,000 illegal immigrants. There's probably another 250,000 in the pipeline. And, what it really suggests is that the president doesn't really care what the letter of the law is. He's just going to do whatever it is he feels like doing anyway.
Has it caused confusion with people enforcing the law, like Chris Crane, among others, who are looking at enforcing immigration policy but really don't know, getting mixed signals, if you will?
Yeah, I mean, they're not even getting mixed signals. They're getting very clear signals that they are not to enforce the law. Chris Crane is the head of the union for the immigration officers, the special agents. And he and a number of his colleagues have actually sued the administration in federal court in Dallas. And so far they've won. I mean, it hasn't gone to the final decision yet, but they've won all of the rounds so far, saying that the administration is forcing them to violate the oath of office that they took, because they're federal agents, so they take the same kind of oath the president does, to faithfully execute the laws and defend the Constitution of the United States. And what they're saying is that the administration is telling them they are required as a condition of keeping their jobs to violate their oath. And they're saying that's just illegal. He can't do that. And they're like I said, have had some initial success. This month or next, the judge is supposed to give a final ruling about whether they actually win the case or not. And if they win, it's going to be kind of interesting. What's the judge going to do? He's going to make DHS start enforcing the law or something? I don't know. It'll be, whatever it is, it's going to be interesting.
Final question for you. It will be interesting. But final question for you has to do with the economic argument that they're already paying taxes, and this way they'll be into the system. It will benefit America economically, and the political outcome. Where do you see this going if amnesty were given? Go.
Well, the idea that, illegal immigrants are paying taxes is true. They are. A lot of them work on the books, so they're paying withholding and all of that, payroll taxes. All illegal immigrants are paying sales taxes, and they rent a house, you're paying, property taxes and your rent. So that illegal immigrants are paying all kinds of taxes. But they're poor. And in a modern society, poor people just get more from taxpayers than they pay in to the tax kitty. It's just the way it is. It's not because they're lazy, not because they're moochers. It's because it's just the way. When you have, an eighth grade education, there's no. You can work 4 jobs, and you're not going to be able to earn enough to support your family. And politically, we'll have to see. I actually am pretty confident this is going to end up crashing and burning, and after a lot of noise, not end up being passed.
Gotcha. And Mark, we did that entire interview. We didn't have to talk about race once. Isn't that beautiful, man?
Yeah, it's nice to do it. Nice
you did it on
once
substance.
in a while. Yeah.
Amen. You always stick to the substance. I'm glad we got to that, and that's the important thing. Great work. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Mark Krikorian, Executive Director of the Center for Immigration Studies. Case is solid. On the flip side, the internet sales tax, the latest. And then Benghazi update from Buzz Jacobs. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth, proudly on AFR Talk.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk.
Some say Christians who work to influence public policy somehow think that government is going to save us. Only Jesus can regenerate a sinful human being, but without a moral influence on public policy, who's to say what's right or wrong? Evangelism itself could be outlawed. What we sow, we will reap. The American Family Association. Learn more at afa.net.
American Family Radio, AFR Talk, a ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News on the Hour. I'm Chad Groening. A former top diplomat in Libya is leveling a charge at the administration ahead of testifying about the Benghazi attack. National Security Correspondent Sagar Magani reports from the Pentagon.
Gregory Hicks says a U.S. Special Forces team was ready to go to Benghazi after the assault on the diplomatic mission, but was told to stand down. Hicks will testify before the House Oversight Committee Wednesday. In an interview with the panel's Republicans, he says the military team was preparing to leave Tripoli, but was told not to go, saying he believes the team was not authorized. A Pentagon timeline and a State Department report said a 7-member security team had been dispatched after first word of the attack that killed 4 Americans. Sagar Meghani at the Pentagon.
A Pentagon report is leveling a new accusation against China. Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary David Helvey says China is moving deeper into carrying out cyber attacks.
China's military continues to explore the role of military operations in cyberspace as a feature of modern warfare and continues to develop doctrine, training, and exercises which emphasize information technology and operations. Numerous computer systems around the world, including those owned by the United States government, continued to be targeted for intrusions, some of which appear to be attributable directly to PRC, government, and military organizations.
Helvey says the Pentagon is convinced China's government and military played a role in cyber attacks against U.S. government computer systems last year. The president's choice to be the next ambassador to Libya goes before a Senate panel Tuesday. Correspondent Jerry Bodlander reports.
The Senate Foreign Relations Committee will hold a confirmation hearing for Deborah Jones. She's the veteran diplomat who's been nominated to replace Ambassador Christopher Stevens. He was killed along with 3 other Americans during the attack on the U.S. consulate in Libya last September. The hearing gives Republicans another opportunity to question the administration's handling of the matter.